Welcome to our August 19th webinar on understanding the facility operations maturity model for data centers. We are happy to have you here with us today. We have two very good speakers with us today. Our first speaker is Jose Roberto da Silva. He is the director at Top Tier Infrastructure, and he is also certified as a data center energy practitioner, the HVAC specialist by the Berkeley Laboratories, and also certified by ICOR as a certified or critical environments auditor, manager, engineer, and technician. And he's been an instructor for ICOR for about 12 years. In addition to those credentials, he's also a postgraduate in business administration and marketing and a systems analysis by Mackenzie University. He graduated in electrical engineering from Mackenzie University and in telecommunications by the Federal School in Sao Paulo, Brazil. He has been working in the IT and technology market for about 30 years in projects, auditing, implementation of sites in Brazil, Latin America, and the US. He has held positions as an expert and an executive in companies such as IBM, AT&T, NCR, Panduit, and Bixby. We are also happy to welcome Luis Vincent Romano Doria, and I probably crucified those names. I apologize. He is also a director at Top Tier Infrastructure with some of the similar credentials and has been teaching for ICOR as well for about the past 12 years. He also has more than 25 years in the data center infrastructure and IT services in Brazil and abroad at companies such as IBM, Eaton, PowerWare, IT Systems, and IDC. He holds a degree in mechanical engineering from FEI, I won't even try to pronounce that, and an MBA from FGV. Top Tier is an authorized training partner with ICOR, and they are based in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and it's a company dedicated to providing services for data centers and mission-critical sites, and to promote the sustainability and efficiency of those mission-critical sites, adding value to their business and corporate image of their customers. We are very happy to have you both with us today. The objectives of our webinar today is to understand the importance of a framework to evaluate the maturity of a site facility operation. It'll also review the FOMM, the Facility Operations Maturity Model Framework, and their elements, and you should learn how to measure and score the maturity and tracking at a high availability mission critical site. The recording of the webinar should be available on our webinar page. Usually it's the next day, so Thursday, but at worst case it would be Friday. If you have questions during the webinar, please use the questions button. If they're just logistical questions, I will try to answer them as we go. If it's an important question that I feel we need to interrupt the speakers with, I will do that. Otherwise, we will have questions at the end, and we'll take those questions in order from the questions button. And if there's anything that we don't get to, we will email the answers to everyone after the webinar. So we'd like to start with a poll. And it's a really simple poll, which is, does your organization have written procedures for facility operations? And it's a simple yes, no, or I have no idea answer. So please go ahead and respond. We'll leave this open for just about 20 seconds or so. And for those of you that have no idea, we're hoping that as a result of this webinar that you will have some things that you can ask some questions about. So it is good to see that 87% of you do have some procedures, 4% do not, and 9% are not sure. So let's go ahead and get started with our speakers.
Okay, first of all, thank you for the opportunity, Linda. And it's a pleasure to be here and talk about this maturity model. There is something we have been doing in this last year, and we would like to share our experience with the audience. First of all, this maturity model was something created by Schneider maybe about 10 years ago. It's an open framework that we use to make assessment in different customers all over the year, large data centers as well as small ones. It's a very good model. We used that for companies that was to be certified by independent organizations. For instance, we use for a large bank before they get a certification for operation and maintenance by uptime. We did that for IBM data centers, and we use that in small data centers as well. It's a very, very important to understand. It enables an ongoing concrete actions that make the data center safer, more reliable, and operationally more efficient. So Schneider has another good white papers. In fact, when they started that, it was APC, and they produced some material that is used as a reference to describe the key components that make up effective operation and maintenance program. But this maturity model, the FOMM, provides a more detail. By the other hand, they describe a high-level elements for a good program. The FOMM provides more detailed framework for evaluating and benchmarking all aspects of an existing program. It's a comprehensive and standardized framework that offers means to determine what level or degree the program is implemented, used, managed, and measurable. With this information, the facility operation team can better ensure their program, their operation and maintenance program continuously, live up, and their data center specific design and business goal through the life cycle of the data center. The data center has different stages since their plan to their design, the building and the commissioning. So it's important to have the facility operation team involved in all cycles. But obviously, the operate cycle, that is the life of the data center, is the most important, is where the operation team is more focused for years. And during the life of the data center, you have to understand all the aspects of the operation and the maintenance and the capacity, everything that makes your day-by-day activity in your data center. In that cycle, you understand if the data center that was designed and planned and built works exactly the way he was planning to do. One thing that is important, the data center is built and designed to be uptime all the time, to be working. But when something wrong happens and causes an outage or causes an downtime, So what is the cost? How that affect your data center in terms of costs? It's a question that most of people cannot answer. It's very important to understand that, especially for us that are involved in the operation, because our investment we do in the data center operation is questioned by the organization as a cost. But what is the cost if something goes wrong with my data center? So to answer this question, and this is so important to be aware about the costs involved in an outage, that we in our training, in ICOR training, CE 1000, the very first chapter, the very first lesson is regarding this issue. How much downtime or an outage costs to my organization? To answer that, one larger manufacturer hired the Ponemon Institute. It's an independent institute that makes studies regarding things that happens in our industry. And since in 2010, they have investigated with a very detailed methodology how an outage can affect a data center. And what they observed, because they repeat this every 3 years, and the costs are increasingly exponentially. So doing this assessment in data center in 63 different data centers in different industry all over the United States, and verifying all costs directly and costs directly and indirectly costs. They found in the last assessment that an average one downtime, one single outage can cost in an average $7,400, and in some cases it can reach $2.5 million for one single failure. We have two different kinds of downtime. We have the planned and the unplanned or unscheduled downtime. 90% of the unavailability of a data center is planned. It's planned for things like upgrades, deep maintenance, or maintenance that you cannot do during an operation. So most of data center has some period during the year they can plan a downtime. But what happens if some critical issue happens with your structure by a key component failure or a mistake in an operation and causes an unexpected downtime? It can impact you in that numbers we saw in the last slide. So this unplanned is where we should concentrate to avoid. One in each 4 or 25, almost 25% of the downtime is caused by human error or accidental operation caused by people. This is something for more reliable that the technology and the components, the elements of data center has been increased in this last years. In the last decade, we observed that still continues. The human error is still a very high contributing factor to cause an outage. As I said, it's in the last 10 years, we have observed that 1 in 4 is caused by human error or human error, accidental operation, for instance. As the components is more reliable, this has become more sensible by the organizations that have people well trained and good process is more important. If we see this picture, we can understand that there are 3 columns that support a data center uptime operation. The mechanical and the electrical equipments have their functions, functionality, and features. People that have their skill, training in their jobs, time in their position or their seniority, and especially their behavior and attitude. That is very important, or has become very important in a mission critical industry. And the third column is the processes, not the oral or the informal one, but the well-established and written procedures, routines, and instructions. Each of these 3 different elements is key for keep a good data center operation and maintenance. What can you evaluate and measure? If you cannot measure something, you cannot take the control of the situation. The site engineering assessments is well known and relatively common in our data center industry. But what about the methods, the process, and the personals in your organization? How do you could construct a good program and assure that a high level of maturity of your data center exists? We have a method that consists in 3 steps. There is first, evaluate what you have in terms of people and procedures. Use a good methodology and the right people to do that. And the third part is be supported by a framework. A framework is something very important. We have done before use the FOMM method. We used to study which kind of processes and guidelines a company used to have, but not every company has their own framework for maintenance and operation. We did that for IBM, and IBM have a set of best practice documents that they follow for 30 years. And by the way, it's the same reference documents that Uptime Institute use to certify operation and maintenance structure. So we use those frameworks in different customers, and we notice that all the aspects were present in different frameworks when a company or organization have their own. But when we found this open framework, FOMM, from Schneider, we could realize they covered the same aspects that the other ones used to have. So having a good and an open and complete framework is very important to analyze every single aspect of our organization in terms of people and processes. Well, the second is the methodology. We usually have involved a PMP from PMI Institute, and this method has a PMBOK sequence. There is a startup planning, rollout, monitoring, control, and we use tools like Microsoft Project to follow every single aspect and organize with the resource that customer have involved in this process of assessment. And it's a good way to keep tracking of assessment process. The other important thing is have the right auditors, people that are from the industry. For instance, the ICOR have a good training to certify auditors in critical environment. And usually we have people from industry that has a lot of experience in critical mission. As I said, it's important to have people with the right knowledge and with the right the right process to make a good evaluation. Usually in the organizations, you do not have one person that has knowledge in different aspects. So it's very important to have a third party and well experienced to make this. This methodology also has some phases, that is engage, perform, evaluate, and review. So it's a process of 4 hands, two by the side of the auditor and also the right people in the organization, that is the people who will give you or the right answers or the access to the documentation to verify every single aspect. And the third and the most important is have the framework. This framework is very complete. As I said, we have compared that with other ones that was available in the market. And that was created by people that was hired by APC Schneider with a lot of experience in operation, over 30 years of observations. And they brought a lot of experience, and they designed the seven core competence or disciplines with several elements we are going to see in a minute. And why to have an assessment? Assessment is necessary to benchmark your performance, to define whether changes are needed or not, the steps, and how to reach a high performance maturity level. The facility operation maturity models is, as I said, a framework, and it's very necessary if I intend to put a operation maintenance program. As I said, initially, you need to know where you are. And what are the gaps you have in each single element in your organization. Once you get that, you can design a route to cover those gaps and to improve your processes. And it's a cycle. It's something, it depends on how deep you want to do in your organization. If you want to cover all the aspects in the same time, if you have enough resources to do that in several different areas, or if you should define which are most critical areas and start from a point to cover what is more important to your operation and maintenance program. This is the graphical format of the FOMM. So as I said, it has 7 core disciplines, as you can see, and each square in gray they call elements. So you have environment and health, safe management, emergency preparedness and response, maintenance management, site management, operation management, change management, and also the quality management. If you see the squares, there are some elements that, for instance, in the site management, you have infrastructure management as a core element, also site operations, efficiency and optimization, and site condition. every element is divided in sub-elements. So we cover almost 80 different sub-elements. And those elements are very technical, for instance, in some areas. Another one is very administrative issue. Sometimes you are talking about something very administrative or financial. So everything is covered by this model. Since the assets and their functionality, the process of work orders, until how to hire a third party and how to manage a vendor or CMMS. So everything is that makes the day by day of an operation is covered by this framework. In the next few slides, we have divided and given an example of the elements and the sub-elements. So the first core disciplines, you cover workplace safety program, the PPE, electrical safety, all the hazard analysis, communications and materials, and all the statutory compliance. Since the quality are quality or the issues from health, you can find in OSHA or in NFPA, for instance, in the fire security. So each element has their sub-elements in the framework, gives what you need to have or what is important to have in each of that aspect. They don't say how, but they say what. One core discipline that is very important sometimes is where we start with, is the emergency preparedness and response. So there you're gonna find everything that is important when your data center is not operating. You are in an exception situation. So the EOP, or the emergency operational procedures, is in there. The crisis management plan, the business continuity and disaster recovery procedures, all the drills process, the schedules, the execution, the incident management, not just the incident that causes an outage, but the saves, every risk situation you find, how do you notify that, identify, register, reporting, how to get the lesson learned from the incidents you face in the life of your data center, because you start from a point and you create procedures for situations that you know or you imagine, but sometimes you have something happening in your structure that you are not prepared for that. So that's important to have procedure for those kind of situations. And when you learn something, you revisit all the procedures, and sometimes you implement new procedures and train for new situations. The other one is the maintenance management. Here you have everything since the asset management. So you have your inventory here, if everything is there, because if you don't know what are the elements in your structure, you cannot design a procedure for each individual element. All the work order management, the reports, if you use a CMMS here, you see every aspect of a CMS that is important. Sometimes you have different software for different tasks in your operation, something to control your assets, sometimes a different software to control your work orders and reports, and sometimes you have something integrated. So the maturity model evaluate every single aspect you should have and determine how mature you are, and if you cover all the elements that are important to handle your operation and maintenance. Also, the vendor management, how do you act when you have a third party? Nowadays is much more common, have key people inside or as a part of the organization, and have vendors involved in the process of operation and maintenance. We have a model that are everybody's from the organization. We have a model where almost everybody is third parties, and we have a mixed models. So the framework can be used for those different situations. And also, how do you handle the spare parts? If you do by yourself, or if you have a vendor that are responsible for that. The site management, the facility monitoring, that is very important. All the site operation, not just when you involve a critical mission elements, but all the administrative process, all the documentations, what are the rules of your critical facility, how do you handle third parties and how people access your structure. It's also something that is very important, how you handle and benchmark your energy management, how efficient is your environment, and everything regarding to the site condition. It's also something very important. Not only in terms of materials and the inventory, but also the clear lineness of the organization. A mission critical is like a hospital. You have to have everything in a good order to work properly. The operation management, how do you organize your staff? What's the model? How do you assure that the right people do the right thing in your organization? All the SLA performance, risk management, our financial management. It's something that usually is has a lot to do with operation and maintenance, because sometimes you have to deal with budget, how to hire third parties, how to hire a good assessment, how to hire support, external support, and you have always have a limited budget, so you have to deal with financial aspects also, and all the reportings. Change management is something very important that has a core discipline covering all the aspects of change management, since the risk analysis until to have a right written process to do something. Remember, I said 90% of downtime or unavailability of your data center is something planned. So it has to be very well planned. So you have to have a solid change management to handle that. And also the change control process. You have to have a risk analysis approvals, cover all the aspects to be successful during your change, and also have a very good control of all those processes. And last but not least, the quality management. That is also something very important. That covers all the document management, all the training. Training is something key for a mission critical industry and data center. So since what is the qualification I need to have, the licensee. I have to keep a recording of all the training of every person of my staff. And I have to have also inspections and auditing. So how I cover that, how I take care of this, if it's something that happens periodically. All the control, quality control and quality process, quality assurance is in this discipline. And the continuous improvement, not how to do something more efficiently, but how to do something differently and in an innovative way. And also all the failure analysis, the root cause analysis, and the innovation programs are in this core element. Well, now we have another pool. I don't know if Linda wants to do that, or I do that by myself. But the pool is, in which of these 7 disciplines do you feel the most vulnerable? It's open. Linda, are you listening to me? Okay, we have. Okay, so again.
So yeah, it's interesting that where you feel the most vulnerable is in the emergency response and the maintenance. I kind of understood the operations, you know, some of the operation sides because we had to bundle 3 of those together. But the emergency preparedness and response, I was expecting to see lower. So that's interesting results. Thank you.
Okay.
So you should be able to go back. There you go.
Okay. Are you listening me? Hello? Okay.
Yep, you can go ahead to the next slide. I hit the poll.
All right. Thank you. Well, so we talk about a framework. So as I said, this framework have several elements and sub-elements. For each of one, we use something to score, to grade that. So we use this method that is 6 different grades from 0 to 5. The first of that is when you have a very initial or ad hoc, is when you have something not standardized, something that has a approach case by case that depends on the people, and most of time you do something different every time it happens. It's not something desirable, but when you analyze some aspect, some element or sub-element, you can go with this. After that, the second level is repeatable, but something that is intuitive. So it depends on the people. It depends on which person are involved in the situation. And sometimes he does the same thing based in their experience or in their understanding, but it's something that is not formal, written. And something we expected to see, at least in every aspect of the framework, is a defined process, is a tree. When you have something that is standardized and documented, that's something we were, as in a critical environment, were at least we should find. After that, you have something that is manageable, and on top of that, something optimized. Manageable is something that you can control and have a process to control that. And optimized is something you have a step beyond. Well, for the framework brings for all sub-element what was expected in each of those levels. In level 1, initial, ad hoc, sometimes you don't find the documentation, or you have no monitoring or no activity improved in this specific issue. When you have a level 2, it's repeatable. Sometimes you have, sometimes you don't. Usually is something you find evidence, but not something documented. No monitoring is done in this level. And sometimes you have room to improve this situation. In a defined process, or in a level 3, you have something written and trained. You find documents, you monitor, you have sometimes you have a space to improve that, and you have to have evidence to have formal training developed by that activity. Otherwise, it is not considered. Just to have something in paper does not mean that you can follow that, and people are aware or know how to do that. Management and measurable, you are stepping before that. Everything is very, very present in terms of documentation monitoring. And it's a process that is open. Every time you execute a function, you can find a better way, and you have a process to improve the document and make that in a controlled form evolve. And the level 5, not every aspect of or every element has this level. It depends on the element and sub-element we are analyzing, but that covers everything, and you have something premium or something in a high level of implementation. Well, it's a very extensive framework, and in a real case, usually you have time issues and resource issues or limitations. So how many people are involved in a set process in evaluation, or from the third party side, or from the customer side. So we have to look for the core disciplines, and that's why we did the last pool, and defining which one we should go first or go deeply in the first stage. So I have to say that every different data center, not every different customer, because sometimes customers have different data center for different proposals. But what we do as a first stage is take the framework and define what is the high, medium, and low priority to cover, or to go in and analyze and starting to improve. So a good way is start with emergency response, and for that I need to know all of my asset management. So if I don't cover all the elements of my inventory, it's difficult to design the procedures, the emergency procedures. I have to create the scenario for drills and all the procedures to incident management. So what I do if something goes wrong. After that, I have to have a good documentation and training for people. Everything is connected. So sometimes in the framework, I see things in different core disciplines, but they are connected. So I cannot improve one discipline by itself without uncover aspects that are in other core disciplines. So it's a framework, but in the real life, it's not the way the things goes in the field. To have a good emergency procedure, I have to have control of my inventory and assets, and I have to have the people well qualified to execute that. So that is why we have the same color in different elements here. The second level is something that is important. Everything is important in a maturity model framework, because or you have an organization that is mature or it is not mature. So you cannot be mature in just one core discipline or elements. You have to be mature in everything, but you have importance, or how can I say, different levels of focus. And the last one, this is low. That is also important, but you can leave for a second moment or a third moment in your program. Here, I give you some example. So taking the first core discipline and the first element, you're gonna see that you have the first sub-element, that is workplace safety program. So when I go through the framework, I see every single aspect of the workplace safety program, and I grade everything. And to grade everything, sometimes you need to interview people, interview different people in different area. You have to go to the field and verify if the documentation exists, and if it exists, if it corresponds what you find in your field. So sometimes you have to visit it and to locally verify the places and the evidences. Sometimes you have to analyze different documents that are responsible in different areas from the organization. So it's a lot of aspects. You collect, you analyze, you read in documents, and when you gave a grade, you also attach all the evidences and identify every single gap that you find, and the customer should take care to improve the maturity of that element. As I said, in workplace safety program, here you can see that for each different level, you have a statement what is important. So when you cover the level 1, you have the level 2, that is level 1 plus something, and to level 3, that should be the minimum, and what is desirable for level 4 and for level 5. So sometimes this process can be done quickly, and to be done quickly, you have other kinds of tools, but as you can see, the framework is very complete. You can go very deeply in the details if you want to. After that, it's something that generates maybe sometimes a report that is 200 pages plus the attachments or the documents that usually you presented that are the evidence, and that is spread for different people in different responsibility area. So it's a very detailed document that can go to specific people that will take care of to cover the gaps. But for the management, for the coordinators, you should present, sometimes it's better to present something with a score level. So we create something that has the level that you find in every different element, and a ponderation of how important is that sub-element to your organization specifically, and you have a score. In the end of the day, you have a score for each core disciplines or for our elements or for the organization. We have created that. It's not a part of the framework, but it's some methodology we created to give to some organizations that used to have a lot of people involved in the different data centers to tracking year by year how they improve the maturity in different areas. So numbers is something that the executive and the coordinators and even people in general in the data center, not that people that are involved, for instance, in one specific area of operation and maintenance program, but to understand how the things goes as a general program. Other way you could present that is in graphics. It's another way. Numbers and graphics is very useful to people that are not experts in different areas to understand where they are. So here we have in this radar graphic, how are you in the different core disciplines, how you should go, or what is your goal, or how is your evolution, if the aspect is covered, if it is trained, if it's field implemented. And this is a process. So it's a evolutionary cycle maturity for the PDCA. So you have to check. So you find the gaps, you act, you plan, you do, and after some time you have to check again. So the organizations we were involved, and we did a very at the beginning a very improvement in the maturity, still continuing evaluating their structure, because it's so many elements to take care that is a good idea to keep it tracking and have somebody, a third party, analyzing different elements during the year, and at least once a year make a general review or a general reassessment, and define if you could keep the maturity, if it drop, or if it increase. So most of customers has this kind of charters also that shows what is the target, how they were last year, how they are this year, if they achieve the target they put in every discipline, or if something has something to do. You can give that by level or by score. It depends on the customer. And the third thing that's important to present, and this is something I said three different things. The report, detailed report, is for the expert and the people that are involved in the elements. Something that is a score and graphs, that is for the management, the internal management is something for from the outside of the organization. That is, am I compliant with some methodology, with some framework? So we also can provide a certification of compliance that organization has a work with their program of operation and maintenance. Well, we should perform the assessment. As I said, it's important to have eye in detail. So have somebody with knowledge, not just with the methodology, but the know-how of how the mission critical industry is very important. There is an organization, it's too many different aspects. It's interesting because sometimes you make an interview and the people think what they have is very mature, and way they understand better because they are involved and they are in the organization and sometimes just looking inside. So it's very important to have somebody with external experience, and sometimes you can accelerate very much the process of improving the maturity and identify and how to act to cover the gaps. Well, also, I think we have covered that. Also, the good point of to have a third party is sometimes you get the experience you take from one organization or customer and can level model to the other organization to improve, because the framework does not say how to improve, but they said what is important to have in each level. So if they said you have to have these conditions to be a level 3, and you don't have, you are in level 2, the framework does not show how to improve from 2 to 3, but a third party can help you with their experience, and sometimes they can point you a short way to get this gap covered. So it's something we have seen some customers that take 6 months to take care by themselves and improve some actions, and after 6 months they were almost in the same point. And when you show like an example or fluxogram, how to implement some action sometimes, or give him a document example, sometimes they can go very faster. Also, you can peer with similar business requirement. Helping set goals, it's something that's important. Usually the third party or the consulting firm does not know every aspect of the organization, and the organization, by other hand, by themselves has a view, but the better view is when you match the external experience and the internal knowledge of the organization to set together where to focus. Everything is regarding to reducing the impact of human error. Every time I have a reading process established, well done, well controlled, and people well trained and understanding, I will avoid human error. When I depend on people and I don't depend on decision or knowledge, I will be more effective and repeatable and reduce the risk of human error. Reducing risks. Least but not last, what should be the assessment outcomes? It's a tool that will enable you go through a program. A program is something that has to be done by the people from the organization. Nobody from outside will build a complete program for you. It will help you to build your right program to your needs and based on your requirements and gaps. Whether and what degree the facility's compliance with statutory regulations and safety requirements, because sometimes this is required to operate. So cover that is very important. If you want to get some kind of external certification, it surely will help you to be ready for that. How responsive and capable the staff is in handling and mitigating critical environment and emergencies. Remember, sometimes a data center work years without an outage, but when something go wrong, you have to be ready to react and respond to that. We usually notice that how high is the redundancy and the tier of a data center, less trained and less prepared for response the people are, because people trust very much in the structure, in the system, in the redundancy. But if you drop, if you goes down with a tier 4 data center, you will take a long time to recover that. So be ready is something important. The level of risk of system interruption from day-by-day operation and maintenance activity. You have to have the control and be aware of all the risks that can commit you. And very important, as I said, it's one column of operation and the maintenance program is the people, the staff. So have the right people, the right behavior. So as we have been seeing, is not training the people in technical side, is if you have the right people with the right behavior and with the right attitude, developing their role in their jobs. In conclusion, human error and inattention can compromise the performance of any data center design, even the tier 4. Mitigating these threats and their effects requires an effective and efficient operations and maintenance program. The FOMM will provide this detailed framework to evaluate and to benchmarking all the aspects of existing audit and assessment program. It is also means to determining what level or degree your program is, if it's just used or if it's managed, and if it is measurable. Remember, if you don't measure that, you will not control. It's also something that will help you or the facility operation teams to continuously lives up their data center specific design and business goals, because the data center exists to justify the core business of your organization. And also the importance of the right people to do that. Take the eye in details. It's very important to have right people to do this. Well,
All right, I just want to, if you don't mind keeping control of the screen, if you want to go ahead and just click, I wanted to let you thank both of you for preparing this presentation for us, and Jose or Zero for sharing it with us. And if you'd like to contact them directly, you can do so using their contact thing here. I think there's a typo in Zero's email. It should be .net.br for Brazil. And you can see Top Tier's website there. I think I answered all of the questions that people had. They were mostly logistics questions, so please feel free to send individual questions to either Luis or Jose. And if you could go to the next slide. As he mentioned during the webinar, we do have a course that our critical environments auditor covers this particular assessment as well as how to do other audits, and we also have other classes as well. And just finally, in conclusion, we have a couple more webinars coming up this year. So in September, we'll be talking about how to put Agile into performance management. In October, we'll have a presentation on crisis management as it relates to COVID or to pandemics. And in November, we'll have another webinar about measuring, and this time we're going to be measuring organizational resilience, and we'll be sharing I-CORE's organizational resilience capability assessment. Thank you all for attending. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, this recording will be available on our website for 30 days. Usually it'll be up tomorrow or Friday. And if you attended at least 30 minutes of the presentation, you'll get also a certificate of attendance that you can use for your CEUs. Thank you very much to our speakers and to our attendees, and we look forward to seeing you next month.
Thank you, Linda.